Welcome back. I'm Sophie Line and this is JB, our resident US Army veteran, and behind us is another epic MRAP we're going to show you guys today. This is the RG-33, and I'm going to throw the camera over to JB and he's going to tell you a little bit more about it.
Alright, hey, how's it going? It's JB again. We got another MRAP to go over. So this one right here, the RG-33, it's one of the three main different types of MRAPs. This one, as you can see, is a little bit longer than some of the other versions, and the inside is a little bit shorter, but we'll go in that a little bit later. So this one's made by BAE. That was one of the other companies that, so during the whole war on terror thing and everything, they're finding out that there were mines and ambushes and stuff, and we need a vehicle to protect ourselves from that. So what they did was the Army went out to the local markets and they said, hey, companies, I need a vehicle that will not get as messed up if it gets blown up or shot at. And so that way, instead of our tanks and our Bradleys that we have that are combat vehicles meant to fight other vehicles, these are specifically designed to take on insurgents that are putting up bombs and all that kind of stuff. So these different companies put forward whatever they had on their books, so the development time was rather quick. The Army couldn't really decide between all of them, or the process couldn't have gone through that they got enough vehicles out of one company. So basically they just pulled from a bunch of different companies. You had Stuart Stevenson, you had International making one, you had BAE making this one. So you had different companies that were providing their own ones. The Army said, these are all really good, we're just going to buy a bunch of every one of them. So this is the RG-33. We'll go around the outside and we'll check out what we got going on. So up front we've got the hood, which is always where we start. And you got your little bit of armored up front, armored cowl, all that jazz. Your front of your the engine bays on all these different kind of MRAPs. This is kind of sacrificial. So if something was going to blow up, your engine and transmission, your drivetrain would take that hit, but they weren't extra armored in order to take that hit. You kind of had the understanding that your vehicle wasn't going to survive the hit. You weren't meant to drive out of it, but you were meant to walk out of it. So if you survived, that's good. If the vehicle survived, that's all right too. So the amount of ballistic protection up front for the engine and things like that was minimal compared to the crew compartment. Crew compartment is where all the armor and stuff was angled more, thicker. That way the crew had better survivability. The vehicle itself, not as much. So we have our hood, we have our grill, standard truck stuff, and then we'll work our way around. One of the things is these doors, same things with some of the other MRAPs, the doors are heavier. So because they're armored, as you can see, we've got the actual vehicle armor, and then we've got add-on armor and little slats and things like that to defeat different kind of rounds. That stuff sticks out from the vehicle, makes the vehicle a little bit heavier. So one of the ways that you get in is these were electric doors. Now you might say, okay, I got to go up to the door, I have to open it up. Actually, the way to open it is right here. There was a switch, one on each side. So this right here, you open it up, you hold your little switch until the door opens, then you can crawl inside. There's another switch on the inside. You got loops here, so you can climb up on top, clean your windows off, check your fluid levels, all that jazz. And you can actually get up on top, because if you have to, you have a gunner up there, you might have to mount a machine gun or something like that up into the turret. So sometimes it's easier to crawl up on this big old hood, stand up on top of there, and do any work you need to do. We've got some different mounting points for antennas or jamming devices, things like that. You can also mount spotlights, different side mounted lights, things like that on the outsides and up front. Basically anywhere they could put a light, and if they had a bunch of them, they would strap them on here. A lot of the times, and you'll see this when we get on the inside, the visibility was very good on these RG series ones. So these would be used a lot for like your route clearance teams that would go around looking for the actual bombs on the side of the road, and you just have a bunch of people sitting looking out of the windows, kind of like a tour trip through the middle of Iraq, and they would be looking for bombs and things on the side of the road, which it's a real great job. If you ever had a chance, go do it. But the visibility was really good, so you'd have a lot of lights and everything, so at night you didn't have to quit doing your job, because the bad guys don't sleep at night either, so they're out there putting stuff in. You got to go try to find it. So they would mount lights up here, they'd mount them on the front, they would mount them on the grill, they would mount them wherever they could. They would even have spotlights up top, to where you could move them around and see different stuff if you had to pinpoint out something. And we'll see if we see any of these mounted up on here, and then we'll point them out to you. Moving on down the line, you got your commander's door right here. That's how he gets in. These are half-size doors, so you would think in a normal truck, the vehicle's this tall, the whole door opens. Well, this whole panel does, but the actual door doesn't start until right here. So it's really a short door, and that's one of the problems with the RG-33 or the RG series is the doors are really short in the front to get in and out of. So when you open them, you actually have to climb above them and crawl in, kind of like you're getting into a NASCAR. You climb inside, and then once you're in there, you're in there. You're not really moving around a whole bunch. Moving back, you've got an air breather for your engine. You've got your different windows. As I said, visibility on the inside is really good. So you can see the big, it's almost like bay windows all the way down the side. You just sit there and you can look out, see anything you need to see. We've got more spaced armor protection for the crew. And then underneath that is the chassis of the vehicle and that V-shaped hull. When we get to the back, I'll point out that V-shaped hull that directs blasts up and out. We got a big spotlight up there. As you can see, it's a big industrial spotlight. That's meant to light up the night so you can see what's going on. Coming to the back, we've got more slat armor back here. Take your RPG rounds, things like that. It'll make it to where it detonates out here and not against your hull, things like that. You can see very clearly your V-shaped hull. It kind of looks like a boat. This floats like a rock, so don't try to take it on a fishing trip. That's meant to direct blasts. All right, so the blast comes up. Path of least resistance is not through the thick armor into the crew area. It's to the outside. Now you might tell yourself, well, if something blows up, what's going to happen to your wheels and all that? It's all gone. Say goodbye to it. But hopefully everybody inside just has a headache and gets to walk away from it. You got some cargo boxes for holding on to different stuff. Let's see if we got anything in here. Nope. But you can put whatever you need to in there. You could put meals, you could put cargo straps or anything for the outside. You could pack it full of rippets if you need to stay awake at night. That's fine. Then you got your rear door. This is your main entrance for anybody that's sitting behind from the gunner's station back, basically. It has a manual handle here, so you can open it up that way. It also has this little electric switch, so it will also open electrically. Then we have, I believe this is our air conditioner. We'll find out a little bit later if I can tell from the inside if this is our air conditioner on there. We've got steps similar to some of the other MRAP variants. As you can see though, those are very low to the ground. Even the guys looking directly out of this window probably won't be able to see that. So that's something you got to be cognizant of with your driver. If you come off of a steep hill or something like that, you have the tendency of ripping those off. So that's kind of a fragile weak point in the vehicle, but it's really cosmetic. If you have to, you could jump down or climb in and out. That's easy peasy. Coming around the other side, we've got more windows, we've got more armor, we've got more wheels. Everything is basically the same as on the other side. And then the driver's compartment, right up there, it's the same as any other driver's compartment. And then of course on the top, there is a gunner station. And other than that, that's the outside of the vehicle. You can see some of the other little antenna mounts, and we have spotlights, things like that. It's a very simple vehicle on the outside. The inside is where it differs a little bit from some of the other variants, and we'll go over that whenever we get in there. We're in the back now. The RG-33, commonly known as the school bus. All right, this thing feels like you're in a giant school bus. That's really all it is. As you can see though, we have very good visibility, and we have plenty of seating back here. So we can fit 2, 4, 6, 8 people here, 3 more up front. The one weird thing about this is everybody's kind of sitting face to face. It's almost like you're on a commuter train or something like that. One of the things that some of the crews that I know that were on these didn't like is the fact that the V-shaped hull actually takes up a lot of the room for where you're sitting. So if you notice on the side of the vehicle, all these seats are up on that little bit of a V-shaped hull. It's kind of weird if you have to stand up and look out of any of these hatches that are up on top, because you're standing on a inclined piece of hull plating. So that's a little bit odd. It's just one of the vehicle oddities. This does have the typical MRAP crash seating, where it can actually drop down if the vehicle takes a hit, so the person riding in the seat doesn't get like a spinal injury or anything like that. And it has these nice little feet rests right here, so your feet stay on your seat. That way your whole body is taking that ride if there's some sort of explosion or something like that. We have Kevlar paneling on the floor that kind of helps with what's called spalling. So if a piece of metal or a piece of armor takes a hit from an explosive, what happens is that shockwave goes through that metal, it cracks the metal, and then hot pieces of that armor get sped up, and then that becomes shrapnel on the inside of the vehicle, and that's called spalling. So that spalling can be detrimental to your health. So this Kevlar little plates in here that kind of just look like regular armor, it's Kevlar to take that spalling and catch it before your legs do, basically. So you got that in here, which is nice. The vehicle's tall, which also helps dissipate the blast. It's wide, so it can take the blast underneath and not actually fall over, unless you start losing major suspension components on the side. The crew out here, or the crew in here, if they're riding around doing one of those route clearance missions, you got your people that are looking forward and backward, so you don't really have to turn your body in a weird way to look out of these windows. You just assign different sectors to the people wherever they're sitting. That way they don't have to strain too much to see what's going on. As you can see over here on the side, there's actually a spotlight that you can mount up on the roof, and you can plug in up there, and then you can use that to identify different things on the side of the road that you want to look at more closely at night, or maybe direct somebody else's attention to say, hey, look at where the light's at, if you can see it better. Some of the other things in here, got a little bit of a fire suppression system going on up here. Here's that back door that we talked about getting in and out of. If you had to, you could also get out through the roof. The roof is just a giant flat panel, and you could stack up your bags out there. Since the inside doesn't have a whole lot of cargo room, you could put any bags that you need to, strap them down outside. You could strap down a couple pallets worth of rippets in case you need to stay up all night, things like that. Then you can have a designated bartender go up there and get you something to keep you awake at night. We've got our heater on this side, very important for wintertime in the desert, and for what it seems wintertime in Georgia, because it's a little chilly today. Then over there you do have your air conditioning system, which you kind of saw out on the back side of the vehicle. Takes up a lot of room. And then you've got your ductwork all through here to keep the guys in the back nice and cool. And then since this vehicle is so long, when we get up towards the front of the vehicle, there's actually a second air conditioning system to keep the guys in the front cool. So this is one of those rare military vehicles with dual climate controls. You can keep it cool in the back, warm in the front, whatever you need to do to keep everybody happy. Other than that, that's the crew compartment. There's no real way to fight from in here. This doesn't have firing ports or anything crazy like that. The only thing you can really do if you had to get out and shoot is go out through the back door and do things you got to do, or you can get up through these hatches on top and you can fire back from there. But then you're giving up your ballistic protection, so you have more of a chance of catching some of the bullets that are flying back at you. It's just up to whatever your unit does, but that's what those little hatches are for up there. But that's just about it for the troop compartment. And from here we'll go forward to the gunner station and all that jazz up there. Here's the gunner station. I've talked about on some of the other vehicles that we've talked about, but here's that infamous gunner seat. This is the new and improved one. As you can see, it's nice and wide, you know, for the hind quarters. You take your little hook, stick it in here, and you sit here until your feet go numb. Then you stand until your legs hurt. Then you sit down until your feet go numb. It's a vicious cycle, but that's how you get your leg workouts in while you're deployed. Typically, the original strap that would have been in here, and a lot of old Humvees and stuff had this, all it was a strap that was about this wide, and that was what you had to sit on. So this little extension here that made it wider was well received by anybody I know that was sitting in these gunner seats. And yeah, that was about it. Sometimes if you had one of the brand new ones, they had a quick disconnect, and you basically had a little red tab. You'd pull on it and it would disconnect this gunner seat, so if the vehicle's about to roll over, you could get your gunner down quickly. However, also, if you wanted to play a prank on your gunner, you just kind of wait till he's not paying attention, then pull this and he falls down, and it's hilarious. Hilarity ensues throughout the whole vehicle. The gunner station, this one is not fitted with the little armored cupola that most of the other ones of the time period were, but it could be mounted with that. This one just doesn't have it. So this is a nice open hatch. You can mount up here your typical crew serve weapons, 50 cals, 240s, your saws, Mark 19 if you had it, anything like that, you can put them up here. But that's your seat. This was a manual or electric turret. So this side, your electric drive, where you would put in your handle and it could traverse the turret for you. If this went out, or if your battery was dead, something like that, or you just didn't want to use the juice off the battery, you had a manual hand crank that you would stick onto here, and it would crank this turret around for you. It was fairly efficient, and these things were easy to use. You didn't have to think about it too much to make them all work. Over here on this side, your combo rack. A lot of the other MRAPs had this. You just have a stack of radios and different power amps, things like that. That would all go in here. That would be where your communications department was. And then on the other side, your air conditioner for the front part of the vehicle. So this kept your commander nice and happy, and this kept the gunner nice and happy. You had a full separate set of air vents that went around the front of the vehicle that got fed by this little unit here. From there, that's basically it for the gunner station, and then we'll move up to the driver spot and then the commander spot. There, that's better. All right, so driver's position, one of my favorite things to talk about on vehicles. This one's by BAE. They basically have a BAE dash. If you see another vehicle with a wheeled vehicle it's made by BAE, probably looks like this. You got a bunch of different switches and gauges and stuff. High, low range, your light switches, high, low beam, all that jazz. Standard steering wheel like any other vehicle. Driver's positions weren't meant to be difficult, so you've got your big pedal on the right, your gas, your little pedal next to that, that's your brake. Pretty standard stuff. Most vehicles in the military today are automatics because nobody knows how to drive a manual anymore, I guess. And so this is no different. You have your transmission control here. It looks very similar to the other transmission control modules on all the other MRAPs because basically they all had the Allison transmission. So you got your reverse, your neutral, your drive, different modes for your front and front diff engagement, things like that, and you can manually select what gear you want to be in. Then air supply and a bunch of different things that you could turn on or off. You've got your winch in and out, all that jazz. I mean, they're all labeled. You guys can read them. Pause the video if you need to. We have different connectors here. Your communications box would get tied into here. Also, this had the ability to mount that driver's night sight that I've talked about on some of the other vehicles. That would connect in right here, and it would be a screen that would fold down in front of you. So at night, you had a sensor, and actually that sensor, it has a plate right on the other side of this, on the outside of the vehicle where you'd mount your sensor head. That's a thermal night sensor, and you could move it around, tell it where you want it to look, and you drive that way, and it's pretty simple. You got dome lights, so if you are sitting around doing nothing, you can read a book, or if you need to check your map, or if you just want to have a light on, you can turn on your light. You could dimness, brightness, all that. Those are real fancy. You have your own little air conditioner outlet for the driver, which is kind of nice. You could have nice cool breeze flowing on you. Here's that half door that we were talking about on the outside. These are not the most fun thing to climb into. One of the things I have to deal with over here is that everything from the steering wheel to the left is an angled piece of armor. So my leg, I can't put it out here over to the side. It's just gonna slide back down. So you kind of feel like you're cramped in on this side, and once you're in the driver's seat or in the commander's seat, that's where you're living. All right, that's just about it. So getting in and out of this quick, not really the biggest of options, but if things are going bad enough, you can make it happen. One of the other things we found while we were messing around with the vehicles, we actually found the control for the gunner's hand station. All right, if you notice, all it says on there is left and right, because if you're in a turret, that's really all you got going on is you got left and right. So this box would be up top there, had magnets on it, so anywhere that was a ferrous metal, you could just stick this to, so the gunner could actually change where his hand station was as long as the cable would reach, and that would turn your turret around if you were doing it electrically. Basically, that's about it for the driver's position. Visibility is good to the front, terrible to the back. Not too bad to the sides as long as it's out far. Directly next to the vehicle, not so much. You just hope that whatever you're running over is smaller than you. One of the things that I didn't mention on any of the other MRAP videos, but I noticed it on this one particularly, is these little tubes right here. So most of these MRAPs that had electric doors, they had these little tubes, and what this was an anti-pinch sensor. So if there was anything in here, like your rifle or your leg, anything in here that you didn't want this door to pinch, that you didn't know was in the way, these tubes will hit it and it will actually stop the door so you don't crush that, which is nice. It was a good little feature to have on there. It was also kind of nice if you're going to mess with somebody, if they're about to close their door, you run up and you hit their little thing and then their door stops moving. Kind of messes them up a little bit, but that's just one of the ways that we mess with each other, which is pretty much all the time. Okay, so here we are in the commander's position. Again, there's not a whole lot going on for this one. A couple of things that you have direct control of. You can help out the driver with any of these little switches that he needs to hit if he's too busy over there, but he's probably not. You can control the spotlight, which there'd probably be one up on top. So if you want to direct the guys in back to look at whatever you're looking at or what you might not be able to see, put the spotlight on it and say, hey, we're passing by this pile of rocks. I put the spotlight on it. The guys back there would have headsets on. You could cross-talk with each other, be like, yeah, I think it's this, yeah, I think it's that, or it needs somebody to look at it closer. So somebody with a more specialized mine interrogation vehicle could come up. There's versions of this vehicle or a similar vehicle like this that had a big claw on it. It'd go out and it would actually dig up whatever it was that you thought was out there. So, and those were typically your engineers would be riding around and stuff like that. That way they could see what it was and they could deal with it. You got your standard heater control. This heater control is in just about every Army vehicle that has that canister type heater that you saw in the back. Put it on start, hold it for 10 seconds, go through off and put it up into run. Never put it into high or you will melt things. Keep it in low, that way you don't burn your heater out. Because when you burn your heater out, you figure out how cold it is outside real quick. And then you have your little light on there to tell you it's on. That is basically it. You would have your little commander's station here, so you could track where you were, things like that. Nice little cubby hole to put a notepad, all your markers. Take your markers, you write on your little windshield if you have to. You can write on your window over here, do whatever you need to do. You could shove anything up here you needed to do. Normally there's probably a map or something shoved up in here. The commander was real lucky. He had 3 different little air vents to blow onto himself. That's real nice. That's an added feature. And that's it for the commander station. There is not a whole lot going on here for him.
Thank you guys so much for watching. This concludes our series on the MRAPs out at NACC. These were a blast to film and learn about, and I loved walking away from this project with more knowledge and more understanding and affinity for the modern machines that our armed forces are using today. I'd like to thank the NACC for access to the vehicles, but especially I would like to thank JB for his time and his knowledge, as well as his willingness to share his own experiences and perspectives. You guys know that on my channel I love to feature the experts, and hearing about armored vehicles, not just from a historian who I love working with my experts, but somebody who's lived it, breathed it, fixed it, that's a whole nother thing. I think that preserving the voice of the veterans is very important. So this was meaningful to me as well, and I really enjoyed reading your guys' stories and your guys' opinions about the different MRAPs in the comments and where you guys have been and things that you guys have seen. Thank you for sharing that. It was very special for me and important for me to read those as well. Let me know what you thought, and if you have any other opinions about this one or any of the other MRAPs, if you haven't seen those, go ahead and check them out. JB does a great job with those. Toss the video a like, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more armored vehicles and firearms and tanks and delightful things, and I will see you next time.